Hello, you're watching Telecom TV. I'm Martin Warwick and I'm talking with Ari Banerjee of NEC/Netcracker. Ari, good to see you again. SDN and NFV holding a lot of promise. NFV bursting into people's perceptions 3.5 or so years ago now. There have been proofs of concept, field trials, and of course there are some limited actual real life deployments, but not as many as people expected. Is that becoming a problem, do you think?
In 2013, when SDN and NFV started to become a real buzzword in the industry, people, analysts, the market said it's going to be 18 to 24 months, right? It's taken more than that, but I think we are at a point where I think some of the ground level, the bottom level technical problems have been resolved. Now, full-scale commercialization takes a few other things to happen, right? It's not just testing VNFs. It's not making sure that it runs on a hypervisor, but there's a lot of other aspects to it. All of those things are kind of taking, a little bit more time than we thought it would. So we at NEC/Netcracker, we have come out with some paradigm-shifting concepts to make this commercialization a reality. And it involves, obviously, organizational changes. It involves IT or back office changes, as well as looking at innovation and how to bring these together into the market faster. When you talk about SDN and NFV and commercialization of that, you cannot be a walled garden anymore. Operators can't afford to do that. You have to have an open ecosystem. You need to be able to bring together partners, other VNF providers, and have all of that as part of your ecosystem. Think of that as an app store-like model for VNFs, right? Making it easier to manage, making it easier to post, making it easier to download. Becoming a real cloud-based service provider is not in the DNA of the operators. That's something they have to change very quickly.
You and I have talked about this in the past before, this need to change, but perhaps reluctance or not knowing where to start to begin the change process. Do you have a recipe, a roadmap for that?
So we look at it in two different dimensions at NEC/Netcracker. One is around the IT side of the house, and we take a five-step approach to that. And then we also look at the organizational side of things and see how we can help them evolve. So on the IT side, we say, there are really 5 steps to commercialization. One is looking at your revenue management. How do you manage the charging, the billing, the self-service applications, partner management, all of those different things. End-to-end service management, the second part of it, that's absolutely crucial. Closed loop, end-to-end service management, which is analytics driven, which is policy enabled, all of that becomes very crucial. Third aspect of it is really around your license management and onboarding. When we talk about onboarding your VNFs from third parties, from external providers, it's not always easy. How do you manage those things? So those becomes very crucial as part of your underlying onboarding process. Fourth is really around the policy management, but the policy management in this context is a much broader undertaking. It's really not about PCRF. It's really about policy in the context of SDN and NFV. Cloudification is the other aspect. If you really want to get the full benefits of this virtualization, you really have to cloudify it. And it's really about becoming or creating native VNF apps which are cloud ready. What we provide is we bring together a whole cloud marketplace approach, where we provide not only the IT applications and your network applications as a service, but also the VNF as a service in a cloud environment. Makes it easy for the operators to take that cloud marketplace, basically white label that if they want to, and deliver that as a service to the end users. This is what you need to bring it happen. The other side, much softer, but very, very complex, is the organizational issues. You need a much better cross-functional team to make this agile DevOps type of approach happen. And we are bringing in methodologies, we are bringing in processes to make that happen. Now remember, we have been doing SDN and NFV and virtualization way before market started. So we have a lot of lessons we have learned. It wasn't easy. We fell, we learned, we picked ourselves up, but in that process we learned a lot. And we are bringing all of those concepts, processes, technologies, our understanding to the market.
Ari, when you say you have a process and a way of looking at the organizational problem, which is having quite a marked effect on the deployment of NFV, particularly, What is it? Because what we've seen is there is a lot of inbuilt reluctance and the silo effect of the old model. How do you go about changing that mindset? I've spoken to people about this who said we're going to have to be brutal. Yeah. We're going to have to say, if you can't do this, you're leaving. Others say they're going to try and cajole people along and say we're all in this together and we will get there. Is there a middle way? Is it possible to bring about those mindset changes without, culling the organisation?
And one of the things where we have seen it really becoming really successful is when you have validation and support of the top management. That's when things start to move, right? And we have seen some of the changes happening in certain organizations where you have the network and IT team coming together. You have the CTIO organization bringing that together, plus also bringing in business users from the marketing and the other side, because they understand the pricing parameters. They understand how do you move these solutions to market. How do you price for them, all of that. There are other aspects we have seen where we have gone in as a team and we have brought in different stakeholders of different organizations of operators and talked about benefits of SD and NFV, because there was one side of the house who were supporting this initiative and others were a bit reluctant. They didn't really know, why do we ever need this? We perfected the art of managing boxes in the last 20 years. Now suddenly, now that we are getting there, you want to distribute it, put this in a cloud environment? Seriously, why? Why would you do that? So coaching, making them understand, because it's not really always about OpEx and CapEx. And when you start getting into innovation, when you start getting to time to market, the conversation completely changes. You're coming and saying, guys, we have done this. We have 8 live deployments across the globe. Let us talk to you about how we have done it and how they have been successful. And you guys can learn from it. And when you ask the question to the marketing or the business side of the operator and say, is time to market a challenge for you guys? If not, then conversation is over. Everybody says, yeah, of course. It takes us 6 to 9 months. We can't compete. And that's when you start. Think about when I said DevOps, when we talk about Scrum, joint development, joint visibility. All of these concepts come into play. And that's when people get excited, because they're not part of the process where somebody else is creating the service for them, somebody else is doing the IT stuff for them, and then just giving them a timeline. They're all engaged. They're all part of the process. All of them have a skin in the game.
And of course, CFOs are always going to look at the bottom line and they're going to say, well, I can save this much on CapEx, absolutely, this much on OpEx, so on, but is it worth the amount I'm going to have to pay to be able to do that? To have NFV, whereas what you're doing basically is at NEC Netcracker is saying, yes, that's one aspect of it, but actually what you need to do is think differently. And that thinking differently applies to the organization as a whole.
It's not just about providing a widget, a tool, a solution kit and saying, you guys go and figure it out. That's not the way this is going to work. And that's the reason why it has not worked over the last few years. So what we are going and saying is that we are going to work with you guys, make it happen for you. We're going to take a joint risk, and we'll obviously get the joint rewards when it all happens. It's a paradigm shift when it comes to technology. We are now moving completely away from boxes and connecting that to having the same function in a server, in a distributed environment, and having traffic flows optimized in a way that we have never seen that in the operator environment.
Finally then, Ari, you have a lot of experience in NFV before it actually became known as NFV, that sort of area, the technologies and so on. How do you find that those antecedents, that length of time you've been involved, is playing out for you as a company and what your customers think of it?
I think it's extremely positive when we talk to the customers. I mean, it kind of instills them a lot of confidence that since we have done that before, we can do it for them. We have a referenceable customer they can go and talk to, which they do. And then, to be honest, they come to us and say, guys, we have done this in the past. We are struggling to get it done internally. Come and help us how we can do this better. So it becomes a lot better for us and how we approach it. So,
interesting times. Ari Banerjee, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thanks, Martin.